Some of our liveliest uncensored debates are about whether the grass is blue and the sky is green. More specifically, whether biological men should be allowed to play women's sport and the perils of limitless self-identity. What we're about to show you is not a summer compilation. It identifies as exceptional new content. President Trump has banned trans athletes from women's sport. Will the Olympic Games heading for Los Angeles comply or defy? Later, we'll bring you my exclusive interview with Lord Sebastian Coe, who could be the next Olympics president and effectively the top boss in world sport. And he knows all about Olympics because he was an Olympic champion himself. But we begin with this.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. But all of that ends today because with this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
Well, the New York Times calls this a shameful campaign against transgender Americans, while NPR warns of extremism with chilling echoes in history. Trump is facing a slew of legal challenges to the trans ban, but so far it's getting results anyway. The NCAA, which enabled the whole Leah Thomas farce, has reversed a 15-year policy and will ban transgender women from women's sports. Athlete Cece Telfer, a mediocre male runner who transitioned to become a record-breaking female runner, said this.
They would be smart and educated enough to know that something like that that's not how history works, and that's not how the direction of progressiveness works. And you can't take back history.
Well, I responded on X by calling the interview absurd, adding that she was born male, looks and speaks like a man, runs like a man, and is smashing women's records. She's not a victim, she's a cheat. Well, athlete rileygaines led a chorus of conservative criticism, but also rebuked me for not referring to Telfer as he. Now, look, here's what I feel about this. I've got no problem with calling a trans woman she. I only have a problem when I believe they are deliberately trying to erode women's rights to fairness, equality, and safety. And I think that's my dividing line. And so really, is it the hill to die on as to whether we call Cece Telfer he or she? I don't think so. But Riley will explain herself when it comes to this. Others have pointed out that Cece Telfer has no respect for women whose sporting dreams she's shattered. That's an interesting part of this debate too. And it's a sign of a massive cultural shift that using the wrong pronouns, previously a fully cancelable offence, is suddenly perfectly normal and no one's getting cancelled for it. So has Trump's trans ban unleashed a new wave of misery for trans people everywhere, as some claim, or is he simply restoring much needed common sense in a way that, frankly, most voters fully agree with? But joining me to debate all this is Blossom C. Brown, a transgender activist who sparred with Michael Knowles on Jubilee this week, and the great rileygaines, who has been a fantastic trailblazer for safeguarding women's rights in all this. Is the host of Gains for Girls on Outkick. You had a front row seat, Riley, at the White House when the president signed that executive order, which was quite a moment. First of all, how did you feel being there for that moment in history, which you've campaigned so hard for?
Well, thank you, Piers, for having me on. Always a joy to be on with you. There was a lot of emotions. Of course, it's a bit bewildering that this is something that's necessary, that a sitting president has to take time out of his day, out of his busy day, to use his executive powers to declare, number one, that men and women are different, and then to further declare that men do not belong in women's sports. But nonetheless, it is necessary. I would argue that it was urgent. So this type of moral clarity and decisiveness is... I just feel vindicated. The past 3 years, me personally, and I know women who have been fighting much longer than I have, the past 3 years, it's been an uphill battle. Not only were we as women, as female athletes, I guess in particular, not only were we ignored and stonewalled, we were actually reprimanded if we dared to oppose this movement. If we dared to even question this movement, we as women were reprimanded. So to finally have a seat at the table and to have a president who is willing to listen to us, I just feel grateful. I feel grateful for God's mercy that we don't deserve, and I feel entirely vindicated here. And I think that visual of President Trump surrounded by all of these young girls with dreams and aspirations and hopes for a future, I think that visual is one of the most iconic pictures that will come out of his administration. And that's saying a lot, considering this man has a mugshot.
Yeah, I mean, the two images I'll be remembering from all that involving you were you with Trump when that happened, but also you being mobbed literally in a vicious, horrible, threatening way by a gang of people wanting to cause you physically harm because you were standing up for women's rights, not least for safety, which seemed to me completely outrageous. Blossom, I can see you making faces there. I've also one question to start this debate with you. Why do we separate the sexes at the Olympics?
You know, first of all, I want to say shout out to Cece Tolfer. I've met her before. She is a magnificent person, and she is very bad ASS, and I love her to death. Let me say this.
We'll come to Cece Tolfer in a moment. Cece Tolfer might be a fabulous person.
Yes.
I'm going to come later to why I think what she does is completely wrong. But just on the question I asked, why do we separate the sexes at the Olympics?
If you actually, Piers, if you actually let me get to it, because you let Riley have her talking point, so I'm going to actually have my talking point right now. Cece is definitely a wonderful person, and I think, let's be clear, Donald Trump is a complete moron. Donald Trump talks so much about waste and fraud, and you're signing a whole executive order banning trans women from playing sports. According to the NCAA, there are over 510,000 athletes. And within those athletes, there are only less than 10 trans athletes. So you mean to tell me Donald Trump signed an executive order for 0.002 of the population when trans people are only 1%? That's a waste. That is a waste. Trans people exist. There are more than two sexes. There are intersex people that exist. And I think that it's nothing more than conservative propaganda that because Donald Trump is in power, he is able to use. I think Donald Trump should stop booty clapping to Elon Musk and actually get something done in this country. And eradicating trans people is not going to be it. And I stand 10 toes down on that.
Okay, so
I'll say very briefly, it's this argument that it's a small percentage of the population. I hope you realize it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not for every one male that's participating in a women's sport, it's one woman that's affected. In my sport, at our national championships, one male displaced 14,000 women. And I can speak for myself. I can speak for my teammates. I can speak for 99% of other female competitors on that pool deck. We all felt betrayed. We all felt violated in the locker room. We all felt it was unfair, but not enough people were courageous enough to say it because they were terrified. They were terrified of the name calling that you just pursued. The first thing you say is Donald Trump is a moron. What 20-year-old girl wants to be called transphobic or any of the slurs that have been thrown my way? I can certainly attest to.
Riley, I think you're trying to, Riley, I think you're just trying to make it seem like that trans people are a threat to cis women in the breast room, and that's not the case. Trans women and cis women should be coming together. Trans women are not a threat to cis women.
Okay, but here's the look. Blossom.
I think that y'all have ran on that ideology.
Yeah, Blossom.
Y'all have ran on that ideology.
Blossom,
for a very long time.
hang on.
And you're going to have to specifically tell me cases.
Blossom,
can you specifically tell me cases of where trans women have hurt cis women in the restroom?
Blossom.
I'd like to know that,
Blossom,
please.
we don't use words like cis on here because no one understands it. Let's just...
well, I use cisgender, so that's where I come
sure you
from,
do,
and
but
that's
nobody,
what I like to use. That's in my vocabulary.
Yeah, but nobody else understands it. Let's just stick to my question. My question for you, which you have...
just because you don't understand, you just don't have the intellectual capacity. You don't have the intellectual capacity to understand the terminology that I'm using.
Blossom, just to explain something. You're appearing on a show called Piers Morgan Uncensored. That means you can say whatever you want.
I know all about you, Piers.
Okay, you can...
And I know how you're good at race baiting. I know how you're good at being transphobic, and that's why I'm here to face you.
Just to be clear,
face you one-on-one.
When do you think I've ever race baited?
Honey, you remember that whole incident with Sharon Osbourne?
Yes.
Let's not forget.
Oh, I do. I do.
But we're not here to talk about Miss Sharon Osbourne.
No. What do you think happened there?
We're not here to talk about Miss Sharon Osbourne.
Yes,
we're here to talk about trans people in sports.
Hang on. You
are notorious.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about the Sharon Osbourne thing. Let me tell you what. Since you've raised it.
I'm a black trans woman.
Blossom, stop talking for a moment.
And you have cut me off so many times since I've been here.
Okay,
but
Blossom,
Riley, you give
can we have a conversation, please?
You get the white girl all the time to talk.
Can we have a conversation, please?
And the black girl is having to speak.
Actually, at the moment, the black girl is doing all the talking. So hang on. Can I just say something, please?
That's my opinion.
All right.
That's my view.
Blossom, stop talking. Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural, makers of the Optimum Day and Optimum Night all-natural supplements. Thousands of Brits and Americans are already taking them with incredible results. Optimum Day is designed to boost your energy and support weight loss throughout the day. Optimum Night helps you relax and get deep, refreshing sleep. And don't just take their word for it. Here are just a few of their success stories. England football legend Michael Owen lost 40 pounds. Robbie, the face of AFTV, dropped over 100 pounds. Linda, a top law firm executive, lost 50 pounds. And Anita, an immigration lawyer, shed 60 pounds. To watch their full stories and find out more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit oxfordnatural.com/Piers. And here's the best part. Use the code Piers, P-I-E-R-S, and get 70% off your first order. Get 70% off with the promo code Piers. Let me just explain to you why what you've just said is complete and utter nonsense. I'm very glad you raised the Sharon Osbourne thing, as you put it, just to remind people and you and educate you about what happened. I was removed from my job hosting a morning show in Britain called Good Morning Britain because I disbelieved Meghan Markle's claims of racism against the royal family, okay? I never said a racist...
Why? I never understand why. She's a
Let
black
me finish. I never said a racist thing about anybody, least of all Meghan Markle. I've never invoked her skin color. In fact, on the day she got married to Prince Harry, I wrote a front page story in a national newspaper in this country in which I extolled the glorious moment we finally had a biracial wedding in our otherwise all-white royal family. You might be bored, but I'm going to address your allegation.
Okay,
that
Piers,
hang on,
you're doing
I haven't
all this
finished.
talking,
I haven't finished.
But I'm here to
I
talk
haven't
about
finished,
trans women in
Blossom.
sports,
Let me
okay?
finish. Let me just educate you.
Well, I didn't get to finish.
Let me just
Piers.
educate you with some
You don't get to
facts.
disrespect a
You've
black
called me a
trans woman.
race
Do not
baiter.
interrupt a black
You've
trans
called me a
woman
race.
speaking,
Please
okay?
stop talking. You've called me a race baiter.
Allegedly.
Hang on.
Alleged race
Hang on.
baiter.
And you. Right. So let me finish. So what happened then was Sharon Osbourne, who was on a show called The Talk on CBS, now sadly no longer there because they got rid of Sharon. And guess what? Nobody wanted to watch it. And Cheryl Underwood, a black woman on that panel, set up Sharon Osbourne in the most despicable manner imaginable. And she said to Sharon Osbourne, why did you support Piers Morgan when he said those racist things?
Of course you would
and Sharon Osbourne, hang on, you can respond when I finish telling you what happened. You can respond when I tell you what happened.
I just want you to know you are
Blossom, you can respond.
What's this man?
You can respond when I finish telling you what happened. And you can challenge me on facts.
Go ahead.
What you can't challenge me is something you've seen on TikTok. So let me finish. So Sharon Osbourne was told,
TikTok?
why did...
Nobody said that on TikTok. It was all over the news here in America.
Cheryl Underwood said to Sharon Osbourne, okay, if you're going to keep talking, I'll mute you. I will mute you, but don't let me mute you. Let me just finish. Then you can respond. Cheryl Underwood said, why did you support Piers Morgan when he said those racist things? Sharon said, what racist things? And as a result of that, by getting annoyed that she was being set up to try and supposedly defend her friend me in saying racist things I'd never said, Sharon got fired from The Talk. And she was left suicidal in the year that followed. That her whole career was sent down the drain because, ironically, the race baiter was actually the black woman on that panel, Cheryl Underwood, not Sharon Osbourne, and not me. So I'm very glad you raised the issue of race baiting, but let's be clear, as you're doing now, the race baiting came from Cheryl Underwood to Sharon Osbourne, and it's now coming from you. So now you can respond.
You cannot be racist, Piers.
Now you can respond.
Black women cannot be racist to white women. Are you kidding me?
Sorry?
That makes no sense.
Sorry?
Black women cannot be racist to white women. Do you not understand that?
Oh, yes, they can.
You don't have the intellectual
they can.
to understand that.
Oh, yes, they
that's
can.
Very much
and you've
impossible.
been racist to me.
That's very much
You've
impossible.
been racist to me, a white man, by saying I'm a race baiter. Yeah.
How am I racist to you? I'm black. I can't be racist to you.
You've called me a race baiter with no
You're
evidence.
Racist to me.
When have I been a race baiter?
You can be racist to me.
When have I been a race baiter?
But I'm a powerhouse.
Tell me when I've been a race baiter.
I'm a powerhouse.
Well, you may be a powerhouse.
I understand something.
You may be a powerhouse. You may be a powerhouse.
Okay.
When have I been a race baiter?
I want you to admit that. Okay.
When have I been a race baiter?
Okay.
When have I been a race baiter?
Okay.
This is absurd.
No, hang on. Tell me,
Honey.
Blossom. Give me one example of me race baiting. Blossom, go.
I'm here at this point. I'm just here to talk about trans women in sports. I said what I said.
So you don't have anything, do you?
Repeat anything.
You called me a race baiter, but you have no evidence I've ever race baited. You admit it.
Do you believe African Americans are superior to?
Let's move forward.
Fascinating. Like so many people, you play that race card and you can't defend it. You can't support it. There is no evidence.
It's not. Hold on. Let me check you on that. Let me check you on that. You talk about this race card or whatnot. The race card is reality. My experience as a black trans woman is completely different than yours as a white cis man.
Well, let me ask you about reality then.
Speaking, do not interrupt a black trans woman when I'm speaking.
Oh, don't be so
pathetic. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when I'm speaking. Riley sits with so much privilege as a
so you can interrupt me for the last 10 minutes.
Like a halfback.
So just to be clear, hang on. Just to be clear, Blossom.
White tears about trans
all right, just can you mute Blossom for a moment, please? Thank you.
You're making
hang on, Riley. So to make the point that Blossom has just literally interrupted me for 10 consecutive minutes without pausing breath. At the moment Riley has the audacity to interrupt Blossom, oh, guess what? That's the moment that the black transgender woman decides this is outrageous. Okay, you can unmute her now.
This feels like an SNL. This feels like an SNL skit.
It does.
Okay.
It's preposterous.
Piers, I just want you to remember that Blossom said what her basis and perspective of life is rooted in reality. So please remember that as we continue this conversation.
Which brings me to my question, which you haven't answered, Blossom, which is why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics?
Here's the thing. I'm not an Olympian.
Oh.
I don't play sports.
You don't know why we separate the sexes?
I think what you're saying is conservative propaganda. I think what you're saying is conservative propaganda.
Conservative propaganda.
That you're able
I asked you why we separate. I asked you why we separate the sexes.
Off of that.
Why do we separate the sexes?
Again.
Why do we have the
Olympics when we talk about trans people? When we talk about trans people, we're talking about gender identity. I need both of y'all mindset to become more expansive.
Right.
I know that's a little hard for both of you.
Can you answer my question?
Because both of you have
Can you answer my question?
I understand that's hard for both of y'all.
Can you answer my question?
A seed.
Can you answer my question?
Again, when we talk about trans people, we're talking about gender identity. We're not just focused on
That's not my question.
Sex.
That's not my question.
What y'all like to do is reduce conversations down to sex.
What you all like to do.
And you try to apply it to what's happening in the Olympics, okay?
I'm asking you a very...
play in sports.
And I'm asking
trans women should participate in
the Olympics. The next Olympics.
What you're doing is spreading misinformation.
Blossom, I don't want to have to mute you again.
Conservative propaganda that should not be.
Okay. I'll ask you one more time. Why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics? Why do we have men and women competing separately? Give me an answer.
Well, Piers, won't you tell me the answer since I don't know?
You don't know the answer? Oh, Riley's got a hand up. Riley,
Riley,
why don't you educate? Why don't you educate Blossom?
The answer since I don't know.
Riley, why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics?
Because men and women are different. We have different physical ceilings. It's the same reason why you have any category. It's the same reason why we have the Paralympics versus the Olympics. It's the same reason why we have weight classes in boxing. We don't have weight classes in boxing because we are fat shaming people who weigh more. No, we have weight classes because it would be unfair. We know the outcome. Every single person, kindergartners, know the outcome of what would happen if we had a 220-pound man fight a 170-pound man. It's the same reason why we have age divisions. We don't have 12 and unders or Pee-wee leagues.
What if that 220-pound, wait, what if that 170-pound man has the agility to beat that 220-pound man? That makes no sense. So you want to base all of the Olympics off of exceptions? Your answer makes no sense. That makes no sense. Y'all don't know anything about somebody's biochemistry.
It makes sense
biology. You do not know.
Of common sense.
Actually, no, Riley, I'm sorry. You absolutely do not know about somebody's biology.
You just admitted you're not an athlete.
Chemistry
you
is made
admitted
differently.
that you have never competed at the highest level.
And see, this is the thing. I don't have to be an athlete to talk about this because this affects my community.
But you just said you couldn't answer because you're not an Olympian.
All right, you know what we're going to try? Why don't we try? Okay, can we please stop talking at the same time? If you talk at the same time, Blossom, if you talk, Blossom, If you talk
just
at the
make you
same
listen to
time,
people.
nobody can hear either of you. Okay? So Blossom, let's start with you again. A simple question. I'll tell you why they separate the sexes, just as Riley has. It's because men have a physical advantage over women, which would mean that women would not win more than a handful of medals in the entire Olympics. Would you be happy if it was a gender-neutral Olympics?
Why are we?
Hang on.
Why
Answer
are we
my
saying
question.
this about women, though?
Answer my
Women are
question.
just as strong as men.
I'm asking you.
I'm sorry. Women are just as strong as men.
So, like-
Men,
So
women
just to
are
be
just
clear-
as powerful
Okay,
as men.
okay.
And I don't believe that.
Okay, Blossom.
That's just your opinion.
So,
That's
Blossom.
not always fact.
Blossom, if the world #1 tennis player...
I don't buy it.
Okay, you know that Serena Williams admits that she would be beaten by the top 1,000 men in the world at tennis, right? You know that, do you?
No, I did not.
You did not know that. So
the 200
Okay, where's the?
So
can
you don't
show me
know
the
that.
receipts? Can
You don't
y'all
know
show-
why
yeah,
men and women get
excuse me,
separated
can y'all show me the
Olympics?
receipts?
I have the
I would like
receipts
to
right
read
here.
those receipts.
Both Serena and Venus Williams lost.
Are you
in a
waving them?
blowout.
Are you waving them around?
what?
You can
Okay.
look it up to the 203rd ranked male player. He drank in between sets, smoked in between sets, and played 18 holes of golf before, and admitted that he played like a 600 male ranked player. And they lost in a blowout, and they are phenoms, the best of the best. No other woman for a while even could come close to them, and they got beat by a man. Let me repeat it. In a blowout, the 203rd ranked male player, who admitted he played like a 600 ranked player,
Bye.
drank, smoked between sets, and played 18 holes of golf.
Blossom, just to be clear, would you want the American Olympics, the LA Olympics, would you want them to be gender neutral where the sexes compete with each other?
Absolutely. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think
Okay,
as long as
do you also believe
It's completely insane.
men and non-binary
Do you
people,
also believe
then yes,
that we should
why not?
combine
It's
the
completely
fair- Why not
insane.
also
This country was built on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And
Exactly. This is why that's so nuts.
That does include cis women like.
And you know what you would do?
Hello?
You would exclude all women from winning medals. Well done.
That's also very
Fantastic.
That's not true. That is not true. Can we talk about Leah Thomas? Now, I bring up Leah Thomas because Riley knows her very well. I bring up Leah Thomas because the reality is, yes, she won some games, but Leah also lost some games to cis women. So there are some cis women who are faster than Leah. There are some cis women who are stronger than Leah. And again, when we talk about genetics, there are some cis women that have natural higher testosterone levels than trans women. That's why some of them may look more masculine. Iman Khalif had to experience that transphobia, which, by the way, transphobia affects all women. And now that Trump has excluded trans women from playing in sports, all women are going to be subjected to rigorous tests to make sure that they're not trans. And that does include cis women. I don't care how feminine they look. You could potentially be subjected to these rigorous tests because Donald Trump took his peanut head, red, orange behind and signed an executive order that he doesn't even know anything about. He's a convicted felon, 34 felonies, right? We also need to be focusing on letting convicted felons in this country vote since we elected a convicted felon, right? There's so much more work. The economy is tanking here in America.
All right, Riley.
Gas prices are high.
Okay.
Why is Trump focused so much on trans people?
Because he
Neither
wants
one
to
of y'all
preserve
can
the
answer this
integrity.
question,
Because
guess what?
I'll tell you
You're
why.
not
I'll tell you why,
trans.
Blossom. Because he's
You're
up
not
at,
trans,
I'll tell you
Pierce.
why, Blossom.
I'm a woman.
Hang on, Riley.
Blossom.
Hang on. Blossom, here's why. Because he's up against complete lunatics like you who think it would be right to have a gender-neutral Olympics.
No one.
A gender-neutral Olympics is the most insane thing I've ever heard from any trans activist in history. Lunacy.
Well, you haven't met me. Well, you haven't found out until you met me. I'm not your average trans woman, in case you didn't notice that. I'm not your average trans woman.
Riley.
People like Blossom are exactly why Donald Trump won on November 5th. People, I believe,
Oh,
of course,
girl,
people
please. Girl, please. Donald Trump rigged the election, which is why he's sitting in office now.
Can we mute
And he's
this?
sitting up
This
there
is the most
Mute Blossom, please, because she can't stop talking. Riley, you respond.
People turned out, I believe, in masses to the polls on November 5th to embrace Donald Trump, to embrace the America First agenda, to embrace his cabinet picks. But more so, I believe people turned out to the polls to reject absurdity. And that is exactly what the past 30 minutes have been on this program, Pierce, is totally, entirely, and thoroughly absurd from top to bottom, saying there should be a gender-neutral Olympics.
I know.
Are you serious?
Madness.
Do you also believe, Blossom, that we should combine the Paralympics and the Olympics? I would love to hear an answer to that.
Okay, I'll ask her. Bring back Blossom. Blossom, should we combine the Paralympics with the regular Olympics? Have them all compete with each other?
I mean, why not? And to go back to Riley's point to that last
point. You are completely insane.
Go back to that last one.
Yeah.
No,
so no Paralympian will win a medal.
That I wanted to respond to.
So no Paralympian will win a medal. So your diversity, equity, and inclusion turns out to be unequal and doesn't include any Paralympian or any woman.
People went to the polls because they want prices to come down. People went to the polls. They went to the polls to vote because they had every right to.
Yeah, and they voted for Donald Trump. And you know why? You know why they voted for Trump? Because people like you have turned this debate into a total farce.
Donald Trump rigged that election. Donald Trump does not even have the capacity to even run this country.
Mute Blossom one more time because I want to thank Riley. Thank you, Blossom. Riley, thank you for engaging in this in the best way you could have done. Every home has one spot that calls out to you all day. For me, it's my bed, and I'm sure many of you will agree. And wait until you switch to Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets and bubble cuddle blanket. It will be game over. These bamboo sheets are next level quality. They're soft, breathable, and they'll keep you cool all night. You'll sleep several degrees cooler and wake up feeling totally refreshed. The bubble cuddle blanket is plush, mid-weight, and exceedingly cozy. There's a reason Cozy Earth gives you a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Go to cozyearth.com and use my code Piers for up to 40% off. And in the post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about them here. Bed shouldn't just be a place to sleep. It should be your happy place. So go to cozyearth.com and use the code Piers, P-I-E-R-S, for up to 40% off.